Okay, so for those of you who thought it might have been a coincidence, my wife is actually going to be telling later in this show. And because I know already that she's going to be telling stories about other men that she dated, I'm going to take the opportunity to beat her to the punch. And talk about one that got away. Or, might be better to say one that helped me get away. So, in a past life, not too many years ago, I was an actor. And I currently live in Tennessee, which is kind of ironic because when I was an actor, I would only come to Tennessee once a year for this giant regional audition they have in Memphis called UPTAs. I don't know, maybe, no one in here has ever been. It's sort of the actor zoo. You sort of take over a couple of hotels in Memphis and you have several hundred theater companies from around the country come and they audition thousands of actors over this like grueling long weekend. So the first time I went to UPTAs, I was very nervous. I hadn't been to a mass audition in a number of years. So sitting in this scene shop outside of this theater where they were going to march you in one by one and give you your 2 minutes of glory to try to convince 100 people to hire you. And, oh man, my heart was pounding. I had those butterflies in my stomach. I felt so nervous. And the only way to not feel nervous if you are Joel Richards is to find something that makes you more nervous. And the only thing that can make me more nervous than getting up in front of hundreds of people and trying to impress them in 2 minutes or less was talking to a beautiful girl. So I scanned this audition room, you know, all the other people, the other 50 people that are in my group, and I'm like, all right, who would I be absolutely frightened to talk to? Well, I picked one out. And started a wonderfully awkward conversation. And sure enough, after a few moments, I was so nervous about talking to her, I forgot all about the audition. And that worked out great. And I actually went and did my 2 minutes of glory and came back and I thought, I felt great. And I happened to run into this woman in the lobby on the way out. And I said, you know, I'm actually on my way out of town tonight. But would you have dinner with me? And she said, sure. So, well, this is great. I've, you know, auditioned for 200 people and I've got dinner with a pretty girl. What could be better? And I'm leaving at midnight, so, you know, how bad can it be? And so we had dinner that night, and it turned out to be one of those really wonderful things. And it's funny how the little things kind of catch your attention. I noticed the way that she treated our waiter that night. Just the deference and politeness. He was pretty inept. I think he got every single piece of our order wrong. I don't know how you can screw up a water with ice and a slice of lemon, but he did, twice. And there was just this kindness and gentleness that really caught my eye. And we ended up talking, you know, late into the night, and I actually got on the road later than I thought, and as I was leaving, you know, she said, you know, I just live in Charlotte. And she knew that I was going up the Eastern Seaboard to see some friends and family. She said, on your way back down to, I was driving back to Texas. She's like, on your way back down to Texas, you know, if you feel like stopping through Charlotte, just give me a bus. I was like, okay, well, that's cool. That's cool. So I went on my jaunt, and I saw some friends and family, spent a couple of days driving up and down the Eastern Seaboard, which I was wont to do as an actor with a car in that day. And on the way back down, sure enough, through Charlotte, I thought, you know what, I'll give her a call. Why not, right? We had dinner, it went out, you know, it went okay, let's do it. So I gave her a call, and she said, well, sure. And of course, I got horribly lost. And so she's like, finally, she's like, okay, there should be a Lowe's, and, you know, Lowe's Hardware in front of you. And I was like, yes, there is. It's just right across the street. She said, great, park in that Lowe's parking lot. I'll be there in 15 minutes, and we'll just take my car. And so that's sure enough, that's what we do. I park, I get into her car, and we go off. And at first we're going to stop and have a nice little coffee somewhere, and we get to talking, and then some more talking, and finally, you know, we're hungry again. It's about 9, 10 o'clock at night, so we go out for a bite to eat. And it's funny because somewhere along in this evening, I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you're talking to someone and you're really interested and you feel like they're really interested and suddenly they start saying things and you realize, this will never work. And we had that moment somewhere during coffee, and I don't remember who said it first. It was just sort of that, you know what, I really like you. This is really great. We should never, ever date. and the other party was like, you know, you're totally right. We should never, ever date. But we should totally have dinner again. It's like, yes, so we went and we had dinner. And over dinner, you know, it was funny because as soon as you decide you're not going to do something, that's exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I find myself over dinner, you know, we've eaten the main course and we're just sort of letting it all settle. And after a few minutes, I realized, you know, we're holding hands across the table. And we start initially talking about all the things that we have, all the reasons why we shouldn't date, all the things that won't work out. We live thousands of miles apart, we're both actors, we travel all around the country. And then suddenly that conversation transitions into all the things that we won't do when we are dating. You know? And it starts to get more and more intimate. And we start making sort of these agreement there, sitting across the table at what I think might have actually been an Applebee's. I know. And I didn't realize how much time had passed until suddenly something broke me out of it. And I looked up and I realized there were chairs on all of the tables all around us. And the entire waitstaff was lined up at the bar just staring at us, watching this couple who'd just been staring at each other's eyes for hours. We were kind of embarrassed, so we paid our bill and we went to go leave. We got back in our car and we drove to the Lowe's parking lot, and I thought, okay, you know, this has been a wonderful evening. It's been a real journey. And now it's time for me to go home. It's time for me to just sort of move on. Well, it was not to be. I was not the one that was going to get away that quickly. Because we get to the Lowe's parking lot and we discover something we had overlooked when we parked my car there. That parking lot had a gate. So we go, you know, we're figuring, it's a Lowe's, right? There's a gate. So we go to the front door and there's a night man and we bang on the glass door and finally we get him to come and we're like, that car, it's mine. I need to go. Will you unlock the gate? And he just looks at me and and he walks all the way. You sort of, you know, got those long, wide aisles. You just see him walk all the way into the back of the store and just pace along the back. Thank you so much, sir. So, you know, at this point, I've got literally thousands of miles to drive. I'm not sure what to do. I don't really want to go home with this girl. I mean, I do, but I don't. But I do. But I don't. And in the middle of this doing and don'ting, I realized, or she realized, I wish I was so clever, that there was a pile of discarded lumber, it being Lowe's Hardware after all, in the far corner of the parking lot. And you know, she pointed out that the gate was pretty high, but the wall that separated the parking lot from the street, that was pretty low. So, you know, with the two of us working together, it didn't take but another hour or so for us to assemble a nice little ramp. Yes, a nice little ramp up to this wall. And sure enough, she sat at that wall and just helped me got up through, you know, line up my front wheels over a nice little ramp we were so proud of. And then I just gunned it. Honda builds amazing cars. That's really all I have to say about that. And I got in my car and I thought, wow. And I knew where the highway was, and I saw her get back in her car, and I thought, okay, I guess this is how it ends. You know, what could be better than building a ramp and Dukes of Hazzarding your car out of the Lowe's parking lot? I mean, you know, coffee, dinner, and a ramp. Perfect date. It's fond memories of Charlotte. And you know, we're driving down the street, and all of a sudden her car parks, or her car stops. I can see the brake lights come on. I was like, oh no, something's wrong. Maybe I'm going the wrong way. Maybe the highway was behind me. I do get lost easily. And she comes back, she walks back to my car and taps on the window, and I roll down the window, and I say, what is it? She leaned in the window, she gave me a quick kiss, and I was so surprised that I just sat there. And I sat there long enough that I watched the taillights of her car disappear in the distance. And then I started my engine, found the highway, and I drove back to Texas.